All right. Thanks for joining me. Looks like we got about 12 people, so hopefully some more add on. We had no power at KCTC, so that's why they ultimately ended up canceling this morning, and then also because of the ice. So we're getting a bad echo. I got two computers going here at once, so I'm sorry if there's an echo. Let's see if I can fix that. Take my headphones out. I might be doing it. Better? Hopefully. So I was going over the test last night, looking at a lot of things, and a resource that we'll be using going forward is this CertMaster account. We did some practice problems. Sorry, I'm reading your comments. In class, a little bit of these, and I'm going to include some problems from there right into our test, so that you guys get used to those for the IT fundamentals test. As I was going through the CertMaster questions, I was kind of going through them last night. I noticed they ask a lot of questions on file types, and I'm hoping that you guys already know those, like .doc or .zip or whatever those might be used for. It'll ask you, what kind of program would use this, or what type of what is this file for, questions like that. We haven't really talked about that a lot. Also in this section for the test, it might ask you about presentation software, word processing software, spreadsheet software. Basically, they're talking about Word, Excel, PowerPoint, but they can't say that. And so there's questions on that. I put a couple of those in the test, which is 3.3 in IT fundamentals. So hopefully you guys are familiar with those, and we've been doing stuff in test out and geometrics and all that revolve around those. So I just thought today we might go through some practice problems, and so I'm going to or actually I'm going to go look at the test right now and just go through some problems with you. Since you're here, a little advantage for you. What we're doing. Okay, so things like what manages memory on a computer is a question. It's exactly how it's worded. So, spoiler alert for you. So it's good to know that what manages it. Is it the task manager or the system cache? Is it the operating system? Things like that. So in this case, it's the operating system that's going to manage your memory. It's good to know what a driver is. So we had to install those. That's the whole reason I had you install Windows XP and Windows 7, is so that you had to install drivers. And not as common now, but just so you understand how those work. And it's a pain if you don't have a driver and how you go get those. And I know some people downloaded them from some shady websites that may have had other things. You want to go to the manufacturer's website in order to get those things. In our case, we searched for the motherboard manufacturer or HP and went and got the driver directly from them. That's the safest route to go. So there's a question about that as well. Let's see. Where do you go to install new features, like in Windows? And and this is a question right from CertMaster actually, but so we would use, the control panel to do that. Ooh, my voice is messed up when I'm not facing the camera. All right, I'll do the best I can. For you. Let's see. Scroll down. So if you're listening, I'm basically giving you the test, exactly what's on there. If you want to take notes on it, that's all up to you. Let's see. So questions about, you know, um, word processing software, presentation software. And this is also included in that section, like open source software, a little bit of mobile stuff. So like an example of open source software, Android is an open source software. It's used on lots of different devices where Apple, they don't let you get their source code or anything like that. They protect that. So, make sure you know that, hopefully. What would you use to kill a process that's running on your machine? So Task Manager would do that for you. Let's see. So what's the set of rules that determines what actions you're allowed to perform on a computer and what resources you can access? And that's going to be your permissions. If the device allows you to do certain things, you guys experience that every day on your laptops. We're trying to go to some of those Windows options and you're locked out of it. You don't have permissions. You're just a standard user to keep people out of that. If you're on Facebook, there's a sweet page called IT Greatness and Nightmares, and they post on there all the time examples of employees, things that they've done, and a lot of it has to do with permissions. Download a virus and it spreads to everything, or they know somebody that's a friend that's going to do their IT work for them, and they don't do backup stuff like that, and they end up getting a virus and losing everything as a company. There's lots of stories on there about that. Stuff that's wired improperly and causes problems. We had that in E-Wing at school. Our access point was for our internet for your laptops was ran with just a regular Cat5 cable, not even Cat5e. So it could only handle 10 megabits per second. And in that wing, we have, let's see, about 160 laptops running from a 10 megabit connection. So trying to access, there's more than one access point, but that one for sure was really bottlenecking us and slowing us down. They fixed that a couple weeks ago. But so lots of stuff on there. If you're on Facebook, search for that page. They got some cool examples of customer work and things that happen in IT. They talk about certifications. People just post stuff. So I go in there quite a bit. So this is from a while ago, Task Scheduler, and how you do that. And one of our little triad assignments was to set up a task to do something. So if you did that, then you'll remember where to find Task Scheduler. I put a question here about BitLocker because you guys talked about that in class. And just as a recall, that was to encrypt either your hard drive or you can do it to a flash drive in order to make sure it's secure. And I had a couple groups present on that in one of the classes. Let's see. By the way, this question is, or this test is 45 questions, all multiple choice, if you were wondering. Keep going further here. So there are some, I think, more of the difficult questions, and I looked in CertMaster, and they ask a lot on them are those tier questions. What tier is this an example of with application architecture and development, so stuff like that. And then when you're developing like an application, how do you install things? Is it run locally? Does it run through the cloud? Is it a combination of local and network? So there's probably 3 or 4 questions on that. And there was on SurMaster, which CompTIA makes, and then they make the IT fundamentals test. So I generally feel like it's pretty accurate of what kinds of things you're going to ask on the test. But they ask stuff like what or about that, and a lot of questions on it. I was surprised with this version. So make sure you understand third tier, second tier, first tier, all of those things, because there's questions on the test about that and on IT fundamentals, and that's our plan to take that test. So, you know, going through these, I realized there's no way I'm going to be able to cover every single question that's on there. So I'm trying to give you guys enough background knowledge where you can make good answer selections based on your previous knowledge, because there's so much stuff on there. Just going through it yesterday was crazy. So I'll give you an example of one of the questions that's right on the test. So make sure that you know that. So what type of application delivery method requires the least amount of infrastructure from the client? And remember, the client's going to be the person that's using that software. And so local but network hosted, locally installed and saved, network hosted or cloud hosted would be your choices. And maybe in the comments you can say what you think. Let me read that again. What type of application delivery method requires the least amount of infrastructure from the client? So local but network hosted, locally installed and saved, cloud hosted, or network hosted. Any ideas? What do you guys think? Make sure I'm seeing your comments. Yeah, so a couple of you answered cloud hosted, which is correct. So they don't need anything to do that besides an internet connection. You don't need any servers. You don't need any way to store it. You don't need to back up anything, any authentication that you have to keep track of. So that's the easiest thing, is to be able to go to a website and access your content. So host it out in the cloud. So that's correct. That's a question on the test. Boom. Since you're here, you know that. Or if you're watching this later, then you know it. Also, while I'm thinking of it, we, I don't know, about half of you are what I would consider eligible for the RTT protocol without checking your notes. So I'm assuming that you have that. But I got a nice little bonus for you if you're ready to take the test tomorrow and you have all your assignments done, quizzes done, and notes done. There'll be a little advantage for you. So if you're not one of those people, get there by tomorrow and you get a nice little bonus for the test. I want to make it easier on you for being prepared, going pro, all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely will be an advantage for you. So if you're not there, get there. I will grade stuff tonight. I graded stuff last night till probably 10 o'clock, so that people would know when to do it. It's really a disadvantage to take the test later, because you're gonna have to do that while we're doing something else. And I plan on going onto wireless networking and stuff like that a little bit after this. You know, hacking some web stuff. Plan on doing that after this test. So let's see, today's Wednesday. So I do that on Friday if we take the test tomorrow, because I won't be able to do all that after the test. Also setting up some routers, wireless routers. If you plan on doing A+, that's one of the performance questions that you have to do. You have to set up a router. So we'll do that right in class. It's the security that you need, all that stuff. So maybe you've done that before. It'll be super easy for you. I'll give you a scenario, like a family who needs the router set up, and you have to set it up for them correctly, basically so their kids can't get on stuff they're not supposed to. Let's see. All right, browser stuff. So there was questions on that. That's from Unit 3 as well. So how do you set up like a pop-up blocker? certificate warning. So lots of questions on that. How do you know if a website's valid? You've got the lock up in the corner. Usually it's green. It's a secure site. You see that HTTPS that lets you know that it's secure. So those are all good clues, and there's questions about that. How do you know? Or if you get the red box or you don't get the little padlock, what does that mean? So it'd be good to know that. Some questions about add-ons, so how you enable or disable those, ones that you use on your machines. I use a bunch of them. They're in my presentation. Let's see. Cookies, what those are. Little files that get saved on your machine, kind of track that you've been there, usually linked to advertising or accounts, stuff like that. So you'll usually get a notification about that if it's that asks you to say okay that it's using cookies on a lot of the websites. So how you would get rid of that. Private browsing, we talked about that too one of the other snow days, but making sure you know that doesn't hide your internet traffic at all, where you go or what sites you go to. It's just on your browser, it's blocking the history, cookies, all of those things. So going incognito doesn't mean no one knows what you're doing. So be careful of that. Also in my notes, I had a thing on upgrading. So how do you make sure that your stuff's secure, that everything's going to work? I mean, you got to keep everything up to date. And when I work at Zeeland Public Schools in the summer, that's one of the jobs. We go around and we can deploy out a bunch of updates, but they don't always work. They fail. Every machine's different. Just like you guys have seen with installing Windows, you can have two people who have one of our build computers right next to each other. They try to install a version of Windows, and one will do one thing, another one will do something completely different. So we usually end up going around and confirming that they're all set up correctly in the summer. So when teachers and students come back, everything's working. And we run all the updates on Java, all the browsers, Windows updates, confirm that they're all in the right version. You can send out a little thing through your network and get a bunch of information back on what versions everything is on. A lot of data to sort through. Sometimes it's easier for 2 or 3 of us just to go around, fire up every machine and double check them than it is to run that report on thousands of machines and iPads and all that stuff. So keeping everything up to date, that's key. Let's see. Proxy settings too. So that was something that we talked about. You can set that up in your browser. If you check that box and you don't have any settings for it, you won't be able to get on the internet. But that basically is for logging traffic and also filtering it as well. Setting up a proxy. We talked about a VPN, the difference between that, a VPN and a proxy. VPN masks your location, or proxy has to do with traffic and filtering it and logging it. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I wasn't looking at the comments. So you're asking some questions and some of you guys answering it for each other. Totally awesome. Let's see. Is this helpful to you at all for the test? That's what I want to know. So if it's not going to help you too much, I don't want to go too much further. I was going to do a couple Cert Master questions with you and then call it a day. But I think what else was on here. Oh, license types. So I gave you a scenario question on that about, an office has 20 machines. A lot of you answered the question. If you haven't yet, then I'll give you the answer. But a lot of you answered the question like, well, I would just go out and buy 20 licenses or buy a site license, and you're all set. 20 machines, a site license is probably going to be, that's more when you have hundreds of computers. That's gonna be a little bit expensive for that company to do that. Although, like the trucking company that I do stuff for, sometimes they'll just buy stuff like crazy just to be done with it and not waste time. So that is a solution. But cost effectively, you'd want to go check, okay, what's installed on each machine? What license type do they have? Is it, concurrent where, um, I can use it, but you can use it, just not at the same time. For how many of our licenses? Is it something that can be installed on 5 machines per license? A lot of times that's how Microsoft Office works. Um, and you'd have to figure that all out. I could see that as a really real scenario. You start working somewhere in IT, and your boss says, "Hey, we're not keeping track of these licenses anymore. We don't know what we're going to be doing, or if we're in compliance, and I need you to go figure that out for me." So you'd have to, go around every machine, figure out license, product keys, all that stuff. You'd probably have to, I saw some of you put a really smart answer and said, I would document all this so it didn't happen again, which would be really, really smart, right? You have to have all that stuff documented somewhere. This machine has this license and so on, because you're responsible for that. They could technically get sued. And I can't remember when I talked about this, but Spectrum Health, that's someone's job to track all that stuff for all the Spectrum Health devices. And they have certain set days. Microsoft shows up, they run a little script on their network, pulls all the information for all the computers on the network, and they better have purchased the right amount of licenses for what's installed. Or Adobe or whatever company it is, they all come around and do that because they want to make sure they're getting money. And they get fined heavily. I think the last time I was at Spectrum, I was talking to the guy who did this, and they were having, I think it was Adobe coming in to run that, and so he was scrambling, making sure that everything was up to date and correct. And it was a mess for him, but it was stressful. He was worried, like, oh no, are we going to have all these? Do we have the right licenses? And we paid for everything, all that good stuff. And so, that's someone's job, handling licensing, because they don't want to get fined. Costs them a lot of money. So concurrent license, single user, which is just one product key per one device. Commercial, like a group use or site license, like I talked about, and that's what we have at school for that software center. Adobe products. You can install that if you're on site on your school computer because they paid for how many of our licenses we need for that particular site. So there's some questions on that. Make sure you know them. Let's see. Where can you find your product key? So this is a tricky question, and this is from CertMaster, so I wanted to make sure I put it on here and talk about it. A lot of times it's going to be right on your product. If you buy a CD, it's going to be a sticker on there, or on your computer, you usually get a Windows one. But that has changed. If you don't physically buy the product, then they link it to an account. Now, Microsoft does. So you have to log in with a Microsoft account, and then that has your licensing or product key information on it, and that's how you obtain that. Same thing, like you guys have Microsoft Imagine accounts; those are linked to your email account. And so if you try to go and get something that you've already gotten, it'll say, "Wait a minute, you already have this. You need your product key again," and won't let you download it more than one time. Well, it'll bring you to the download spot, but it'll say, "Hey, you already ordered this. It's free. It's free." So I would, for the test and for IT fundamentals, the answer is that it's displayed right on the packaging for you, product key. Reality, it can be that or linked to an email address. So, how do we do it? Oh, what should you do before you install an application? As an IT person, probably going to make sure that, and this is a question or similar to that, the question is, but you got to make sure that everything's compatible with that operating system. If it's older software, stuff like that. You know, make sure that are there any special instructions or anything you need to install first before you install that software or application. Um, Minimum system requirements for hardware, all those things are stuff that you would need to do before you install an application. So right now we're used to just, I need this, go find it, double click on it and run it. If you're on a large company network that is, millions of dollars, you hopefully are being a little more cautious than that. And like I said, that Facebook page talks about that. Somebody going on a website on a server, downloading a virus, and they lost all their data. And there was no getting it back. Their backups didn't work. They didn't test their backups ahead of time. So obviously, you don't want that guy who has to go to their boss and say, "Yeah, we lost all our data." That means you're also probably looking for a new job. So, let's see. What's the function of an operating system? I think this is the very first question I asked you on one of our very first quiz in this section. It's the interface between the machine. That's the question. Let's see, drivers. What else? Oh, remember that term journaling? That was also on CertMaster, which will be on IT Fundamentals. So that's something that you will want to check out going forward. Or journaling is a term. Make sure that's in your notes and what that is. But basically storing any changes to a file, and it's better for backups. But there's a question on that. Partitions as well. So extended, logical, active, primary partitions. Hopefully you remember that. See anything else? I think that's pretty much it. So 45 questions. Sorry if you're having audio problems. I don't know what that is. 45 questions on the test. You guys have any questions for me that I can answer right now? If you want to put them in the comments, or that'd be great. While I'm waiting, I was just going to say I appreciate you taking the time to log on here, and hoping I'm giving you good information that will help you out with this test, because it is hard. I think it's a difficult test. Okay. Yeah. Josh says thanks for the rundown. No problem. Give you a little insight to what's on there. Like I said, something I didn't specifically give you notes on, like presentation software, word processing, spreadsheet software. Hopefully you know the differences between those, because those are on the test. Would have enough time tomorrow to take this test then? Absolutely. You can tomorrow you should be able to take this test, and then if you want to do a certification test or a practice test or anything like that, you should have time to do it. Try to get started right away. Like I said, right now only half the class is ready for the test based on the RTT stuff. So I'm not going to spend any time reviewing before class. Those people will need to just work on getting caught up. So anything else? For CertMaster, let's see if I can. So we have, I don't have it yet, but if you're doing 901 or 902, I have an account for this. So once you pass a practice test, I will share that account information with you. We also have it for IT Fundamentals. So when we get a little closer to the test for that, which I'm hoping on March, all these snow days. But when we get closer to that time, I will share that account information with you too. You can go through all the practice questions that I've been going through as well. We just got the one for IT Fundamentals because it's the new test. They should release one for the new A+ test if you're planning on doing the 1001, 1002. So I don't have that yet though. And let me quick show you this, and maybe we'll just run through a couple of these questions. All right, so it's broken down really nice by each of the concepts. We're on 3, and I would say the most difficult. Well, we haven't, like 3-3, we did not go over specifically. Let's do a quick refresh on that one. Oops. So I don't think these questions are hard. That's why we didn't really spend any time in class on them. But based on your experience, I don't know. So collectively speaking, screen sharing, video conferencing, instant messaging, and email are examples of what type of software. So I would say collaboration software. And again, we did this in class, but it's kind of cool. You can say if you're unsure and it comes back to the questions you get wrong or we're not sure about. And it's better to answer honestly if you don't know, because then it comes back to them and helps you review them rather than just guessing. But pretty confident it's collaboration. So, what's some other ones? So, what type of software allows stakeholders and users to control costs and manage budgeting through project planning, scheduling, resource allocation, and change management? So, these might be new terms to you. Accounting software is going to be all your financial stuff, business specific. So, something specific to an industry, databases access. Project management is going to be organizing things, and that's what this is: project planning, scheduling, resource allocation. A lot of those people we have come in for Spectrum Health are project managers, or people from Amway also that are on our IT advisory committee. A lot of them are project managers, so their job's to talk between all different groups of people and organize all that. And that's what this is. What type of business software would you use to store a large amount of information, such as timetables, customer details, and patient records? Let's see. Large amount of information, timetables, customer details, and patient records. I would say business specific. No. Ooh. All right, so it'll come back to that one. What type of software enables you to create sophisticated business briefs that can be projected for display? Presentation software. Hopefully you're doing these along with me. When a file is hosted on a network that can be accessed by users signing in, where is it located? So the online workspace. And I'm not going to do all of these, just to give you an idea. Like we've never talked about this. I don't have this question on the test or anything like that, but what type of software is Microsoft SQL? So that's going to be database software. So Access is going to use that. As you can see, we didn't talk about that, but you could get that question on the test. If you've been doing, or if you later on do the Test Out Desktop Pro and you do the geometric stuff, you might see that SQL hopefully, and that would remind you. How does remote desktop software, or what does remote desktop software allow you to do? So access and control a different computer via the internet. The answer on that one. So as you can see, this is helpful. I got that one question wrong. So in a couple of questions here, we'll circle back to that one. Tell me what the right answer is, and then give me an explanation on why. So, but anyway, that's enough of that. You guys don't need to listen to me do questions all day. Let's see. All right. So I'm just trying to see. My other computer died, but I think that's it for today. I don't want to waste your time, but hopefully that was helpful. Like I said, if you don't have your RTT stuff done, get that done today or tonight. Send it to me. Leave me a comment on Google Classroom that you did it. Make sure you have notes. If you don't have notes for something, contact somebody else in our class. See if they can send them to you, because that's the first thing I'm going to do is check your notes that you have them. If you're all ready for tomorrow and tomorrow only, you got a nice little bonus for the test that I'll give you for being prepared, going pro. So make sure you have that. If you got any questions, email me, and I will be happy to answer those for you. My kids had 2 hour delay, and my wife had a 2 hour delay, and my daughter's daycare was closed, so it's just me and her. So I got lots of free time today to help you out if you need it. All right. So I think I'll call that a day. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully the weather is better and everything goes well. Study up for the test. Look over your notes. Be ready. Make sure your RTT is set. And I will see you then. Thanks.